Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers arrests for traffic infractions, taser use, and various criminal offenses, and is brought to us by Police Activities channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of this episode, Babbel. Summer is the season of travel, and Babbel is every explorer's must-have travel accessory. Having the ability to connect with local people and communities can enrich your travel experience and allow you to foster new relationships that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Babbel's award-winning technology is scientifically proven to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks, utilizing short 10-minute interactive lessons developed by real language teachers, not learning algorithms or AI. I'm planning a trip to Italy this summer to visit the Colosseum and enjoy some authentic Italian food. And being able to ask the locals for the best dining spots will make my trip even better. Thanks to Babbel's easily digestible lessons, learning useful phrases like dove il bagno has never been easier. Right now, Babbel is offering members of the ATA community a 60% discount when you click on the link in the description. With a 20-day money-back guarantee, you have absolutely nothing to lose. So click on the link in the description or scan the QR code and start your language learning journey today. Thanks again to Babbel for sponsoring this episode. On July 16th, 2019, 65-year-old grandmother Deborah Hamill was pulled over by Officer Messini of the Cashin Police Department for driving her truck with a broken taillight in Cashin, Oklahoma. The interaction that followed was captured by Officer Messini's body camera.
Hello.
Hi.
So what's going on with your truck?
It's been hit, and we're waiting to see if I can't find a bed for it, a short bed. It's drivable.
Yeah, but it's not legal because you got a busted taillight. You got your driver license and insurance on you?
I've driven it up here ever since it's been like this.
How long ago has it been like that?
Probably about 6 months.
Oh, okay. Well, you've had plenty of time to get it fixed.
I've driven it up here a lot.
Live here in town?
No, my name's Hamill. I live out on Highway 74.
Hamill, huh?
Yeah, Hamill Hunt.
Related to Hank?
I'm his mother.
Oh, okay. Yeah, busted taillight seems to be a pattern with the Hamills.
Well, y'all had a headlight out on one of your cop cars the other night.
We did?
Yeah, but I just don't tell you.
We should have.
Yeah, I guess I should.
All right, sit tight for me.
What do you want?
I haven't decided yet. Stay in the vehicle. All right, Miss Hamill. Since you informed me that you've had that for 6 months.
Oh yeah, and we're just looking for a bed because we can't find a short bed. I mean, my brother's looking for it.
Can you at least get the light?
They've got lights on them, don't they? They do have lights in them, and they do work.
Well, it's broken.
Yeah, I know it's broken.
So if you hit your brake lights, that white bulb's going to blind somebody at night.
Oh, okay. Well, can I put red tape on it? Will that work?
Yeah, but I don't think red tape's going to help you there. You don't have enough plastic to tape over.
Well, you know, I kind of hate to buy one if I'm going to get the whole bed and it's going to have everything on it.
I got you.
You know, I just don't want to spend the money.
I understand.
And, you know, I don't drive it to Texas. I don't drive it in the city. I go to Guthrie, Kingfisher. I'm going right now to check on cattle. Okay. Well, I did issue for a defective equipment. It's $80. You have till September 16th to take care of this. To get you to sign there with the Exodus. So you don't even give a warning for this? You've been driving around for 6 months like that. I'm truthful. Well, I'm not going to give you a warning for something you've been driving for 6 months. But you've seen me in here. You've seen me in town. No, I haven't. You've had to if I've been up here. Nope. Either way, I'm issuing you a citation. Sign there, please. Well, I don't want to sign it because I don't want to do $80. You don't want to sign it? No, because I don't think that I deserve to pay $80 for something that is fixable and I can fix it if that's all you want to do. Go ahead and step out of the car. Why? Because you're under arrest. Step out.
When Ms. Hamill refuses to sign the citation, Officer Messini orders her to step out of the vehicle because she's under arrest. As we have previously discussed on this channel, the Supreme Court established in the 2001 case of Atwater versus City of Lago Vista that, quote, if an officer has probable cause to believe that an individual has committed even a very minor criminal offense in his presence, he may, without violating the Fourth Amendment, arrest the offender. However, state law may impose stricter limitations on when an individual can be arrested for minor offenses. Section 16-108 of Title 47 of the Oklahoma statute states that, quote, whenever a person is halted by a peace officer for any violation of this title punishable as a misdemeanor, the officer shall proceed in accordance with the State and Municipal Traffic Bail Bond Procedure Act. Under the State and Municipal Traffic Bail Bond Procedure Act, which includes Section 1115.1 of Title 22 of the Oklahoma statutes, quote, any person who was arrested by a law enforcement officer solely for a misdemeanor violation of a state traffic law or municipal traffic ordinance shall be released by the arresting officer upon personal recognizance if the arrested person has been issued a valid license to operate a motor vehicle, the arresting officer is satisfied as to the identity of the arrested person signs a written promise to appear as provided for on the citation, and the violation does not constitute a felony, negligent homicide, driving while impaired or under the influence of alcohol or other intoxicating substances, or eluding or attempting to elude a law enforcement officer. Therefore, under Oklahoma law, an individual's signature on a traffic citation is not an admission of guilt. Rather, it is a promise to appear in court or pay the fine for the traffic offense. However, because Ms. Hamill refused to sign the citation, Officer Massini was not required to release her on personal recognizance under this statute, and a court would likely conclude that he did not exceed his authority by placing her under arrest for the underlying traffic offense after she refused to sign the promise to pay or appear.
Step out. I'm giving you a lawful order. Step out.
You be fair with me and I'll be fair with you.
Step out.
No.
You're under arrest.
No, I'm not.
I'm placing you under arrest. Step
you
out.
You are full of shit because you're not placing me under no damn arrest.
Step out.
No, I'm not.
Do not take off.
Shut up and give me that and I'll sign it.
Step out.
No.
We're beyond that.
Do you want me
Step out. 305 dispatch. Got one taken off. See your hands! Get out of the car! 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 Get out of the car!
I am not. You better leave me!
Put your hands behind your back!
Leave me alone!
Put your hands behind your back!
No! I said leave me alone. I mean it. Leave me alone.
After Ms. Hamill declines to get out of the vehicle, Officer Massini removes her forcibly and throws her to the ground, where he attempts to handcuff her. However, Ms. Hamill refuses to put her hands behind her back and kicks Officer Massini, who backs away. Officer Massini then pulls out his taser, and when Ms. Hamill attempts to stand up, he deploys it. Section 643 of Title 21 of the Oklahoma statute states that, quote, to use or to attempt to offer to use force or violence upon or toward the person of another is not unlawful when necessarily committed by a public officer in the performance of any legal duty. However, this statute does not mean that officers have unlimited discretion to use whatever force they choose to employ in any situation. To determine whether a use of force is constitutionally excessive, courts generally consider the three factors outlined by the Supreme Court in the 1989 case of Graham versus Connor: the severity of the crime, whether the suspect posed an immediate threat, and whether the suspect was actively resisting or trying to evade arrest by flight. In the 1993 case of Hinton versus City of Elwood, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, which has jurisdiction over Oklahoma, held that the use of a stun gun was not excessive when an unarmed, outnumbered suspect actively resisted officers by kicking his feet, flailing his arms, and biting the officers as they attempted to handcuff him. Additionally, in the 2017 case of United States versus Morgan, the same court concluded that officers acted reasonably when they tasered an individual who planted his arms under his stomach to prevent the officer officers from handcuffing him and refused to comply with their orders to show his hands, even though the individual did not otherwise physically resist the officers. Here, Ms. Hamill's initial crime was a minor traffic infraction, and she likely did not pose an immediate threat to officers at the beginning of the incident. However, her attempt to flee and kick Officer Massini heightened the severity of the situation, and given 10th Circuit precedent upholding the use of tasers against individuals who resist handcuffing, it is likely that a court would decide that Officer Massini's use of force was constitutionally reasonable in this instance.
Put your hands behind your back. Lay down and put your hands behind your back. Now. No, you will not. You're going to get it again. 305 dispatch. Go ahead and start EMS. Taser deployed. One female custody. Why didn't you just sign a ticket?
Because I felt like it would be fair with me, because I have been in town forever with this thing. I've been on go to and get it damn thing.
Do you realize you just got yourself in a whole lot more trouble?
What?
For running?
Oh, I didn't run. I told you weren't going to arrest me. I pulled him here thinking that you would not.
Officer Massini tells Ms. Hamill that she got herself into a lot more trouble by running, and eventually she was charged with eluding, resisting, obstructing, and assault and battery on an officer. Section 444 of Title 21 of the Oklahoma statute states that, quote, "It is unlawful for any person, after being lawfully arrested or detained by a peace officer, to escape or attempt to escape from such peace officer." Likewise, Section 540A of Title 21 of the Oklahoma statute states that, quote, "Any operator of a motor vehicle who has received a visual and audible signal, a red light and a siren from a peace officer driving a motor vehicle directing the operator to bring the vehicle to a stop, and who willfully increases the speed or extinguishes the lights of the vehicle in an attempt to elude such peace officer, or willfully attempts in any other manner to elude the peace officer, is guilty of a misdemeanor." Although case law applying these statutes is limited, in the 1987 case of ALG versus State, the Court of Criminal Appeals of Oklahoma noted that an individual violated both of these statutes when he originally stopped for an officer's lights and siren, then drove off at a high rate of speed after the officer approached the stopped vehicle. Therefore, based on the fact that Ms. Hamill attempted to drive away from the scene, it is likely that a court would find that she attempted to elude and escape Officer Massini. Additionally, Section 268 of Title 21 of the Oklahoma statutes, which codifies the offense of resisting an officer, states that, quote, "Every person who knowingly resists, by the use of force or violence, any executive officer in the performance of his duty is guilty of a misdemeanor." In the 1976 case of Reams versus State, the Court of Criminal Appeals of Oklahoma held that jerking away from an arresting officer's grasp, accompanied by threats, was sufficient to establish resistance by force and violence. Because Ms. Hamill kicked at Officer Massini while he attempted to handcuff her, it is also likely a court would find that she knowingly resisted him by use of force or violence. Similarly, Oklahoma's obstruction statute, found in Section 540 of Title 21 of the Oklahoma statute, states that, quote, "Any person who willfully delays or obstructs any public officer in the discharge or attempt to discharge any duty of his or her office is guilty of a misdemeanor." In the 2009 case of U.S. versus Sanchez, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals found that an individual violated the obstruction statute when he fled after officers ordered him to get on the ground. Here, because Ms. Hamill refused to comply with Officer Massini's order to exit the vehicle and drove away from him instead, a court would likely find that she willfully delayed and obstructed him from carrying out his duties. Finally, Section 649 of Title 21 of the Oklahoma statutes, which covers assault and battery on a police officer, states that, quote, "Every person who knowingly commits any assault upon the person of a police officer, or, quoting again, knowingly commits battery or assault and battery upon the person of a police officer is guilty of an offense." Section 641 of the same title defines an assault as, quote, "Any willful and unlawful attempt or offer with force or violence to do a corporal hurt to another," while Section 642 defines battery as, quote, "Any willful and unlawful use of force or violence upon the person of another." Therefore, as the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals explained in the 2022 case of United States versus Winrow, quote, Every consummated battery in Oklahoma necessarily includes an assault. In this situation, it appears that at least one of Ms. Hamill's kicks made contact with Officer Massini's leg, which a court would almost certainly classify as both an assault and a battery.
Here, go ahead and roll to your back. All right, sit on your butt.
I'm trying.
Are you hurt?
Yeah, I'm hurt.
What hurts?
Everything.
All right, I got EMS on the way. Just hang tight.
You got a what on the way?
I got an ambulance on the way to check you out.
Ambulance? I don't need an ambulance.
Well, you got tased, so they got to check you out.
Following her arrest, Ms. Hamill refused medical attention, but officials brought her to the ER for an assessment before taking her to jail. According to online court records, Ms. Hamill was eventually charged with assault and battery on a police officer, which is a felony offense, resisting, obstructing, eluding, and operating a vehicle with defective equipment. On July 21, 2020, Ms. Hamill pleaded guilty to all 4 misdemeanor charges, but the felony assault and battery charge was dropped as part of a plea bargain. Ms. Hamill received a 4-year deferred sentence and was ordered to pay a fine of $50 for each count. Shortly after Ms. Hamill's arrest, the body camera footage spread on social media, and over 50 people gathered at a Cashin City Council meeting to talk about the incident. While a group of women supporting Ms. Hamill wore lime green shirts that read "Old Ladies Against Tasing" and "Old Ladies Lives Matter," some members of the community were there to voice their support for the Cashin Police Department, or express understanding for both sides. The Cashin police chief refused to comment on the case based on legal advice, and as of the date of writing this episode, no investigations or disciplinary action against Officer Massini have been publicly announced. A press release by Ms. Hamill's attorney, Edward Blau, described Officer Massini's actions as, quote, egregious and unnecessary, and claimed that they served, quote, no purpose other than to torment and embarrass Ms. Hamill. He also stated they, quote, are exploring all legal actions which may be taken to vindicate Ms. Hamill's civil rights. However, as of the date of writing this episode, it does not appear that Ms. Hamill has filed a lawsuit or taken any other legal action. Overall, Officer Massini gets a C- because although he maintained a professional tone and demeanor throughout the encounter, and a court would likely find that his use of force was constitutional, I simply cannot condone the use of a taser on an elderly woman, even one who was engaged in low-level physical resistance like Ms. Hamill. Despite her resistance, I find it difficult to accept that Ms. Hamill truly posed a danger to Officer Massini, and I believe he should have attempted to subdue her using less dangerous and painful methods of force before resorting to the use of a taser, particularly given the fact that elderly individuals are at higher risk of death or serious injury from tasers. This encounter illustrates how what courts consider to be constitutionally quote-unquote reasonable force does not always align with the minimum amount of force that's necessary, and how, consequently, officers can sometimes endanger citizens without having to fear potential repercussions. Ms. Hamill gets an F for refusing to comply with Officer Massini's lawful orders, fleeing the scene rather than submitting to arrest, and kicking Officer Massini as he attempted to handcuff her. Now, although I do not believe that Officer Massini should have used a taser on Ms. Hamill, her conduct likely made it constitutional for him to do so, and had Ms. Hamill simply signed the citation, which was not an admission of guilt, she could have contested it the right way, in court. Instead of taking the legal course of action, Ms. Hamill chose to engage in criminal conduct, and rather than a simple equipment violation, she ended up with 3 criminal additional convictions on her record as a result. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic that you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my second channel for even more police interaction content.